So the first question, hold on. We are recording this meeting. I must let you all know that it will be recorded. I got to get this dialogue box off of here. All right. So the first question is for and just to let you all know, we're going to go in alphabetical order tonight in the way of asking these questions, and we're going to rotate how we take that order. And so the first question tonight is for Sheriff Marlon Gusman, and I'm going to ask you to just briefly, in the next 2 minutes, to introduce yourself and to tell us whatever you want to tell us, and particularly paying close attention to why you see yourself as most qualified to hold this position as sheriff. All right. Beginning with Sheriff Marlon Gusman.
Thanks. First, I've always appreciated the opportunity to visit and work with Justice and Beyond. I'm grateful what you do in the community. When I was elected, OPSO was a mess, 13 buildings, mostly in a state of disrepair and neglect. It was a revolving door for both the inmates and staff. The Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office was historically underfunded, and it relied on state inmates for most of the funding. Katrina devastated the infrastructure. And my vision after Katrina was to have a new modern facility with a direct supervision model. It was a long journey, political inaction, political adversity, but we persevered. We abandoned or demolished every single last building that was being used when I got elected. We increased training, we doubled employee pay. We have a stable funding source for the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, which was historically underfunded. We established a day reporting center to help those coming back not go back. We established a reentry program with family nights. We hired individuals to work at the Sheriff's Office who were returning citizens, who are now permanent employees of the Sheriff's Office. We established a school where we just had a GED program before. We now have an accredited school by the Department of Education. We issued 38 diplomas this past 2 years. We partnered with Tulane University School of Medicine for mental health services. We have chaplains, volunteers. We partnered with the Girl Scouts for Girl Scouts Beyond Bars, Delgado, Goodwill, UNO. On the COVID note, we've vaccinated 100% of our staff. We have vaccinated 718 inmates. And I'll say a little bit about the special needs building. A special needs building is something that is needed. Everybody knows we need it. Those who don't are just sticking their heads in the sand. We have true live stories of people with mental illness have to take care of.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Gusman. Let's move now to Janet Hayes.
Thank you, Pastor Manning and Justice and Beyond for having this forum. My name is Janet Hayes. Many of you know me through my efforts with various activists and advocacy groups to collaborate on the following issues: fighting against police brutality, racism and oppression, environmental injustice, big money in politics, and wage inequality. In 2009, I became outreach coordinator for SafeCharityHospital.com. Through my efforts to advocate for Charity Hospital to be used as a one-stop shop mental health care and research center of excellence, I began my own 501c3 nonprofit organization, now nationally recognized, to advocate for at the local, state, and national levels to remove policy barriers to treatment and care for people living with serious mental illnesses who have been increasingly funneled into incarceration, homelessness, unnecessary repeated hospitalizations, and death since Governor Jindal eliminated much of our long-term inpatient psychiatric infrastructure. Despite opposition from otherwise like-minded organizations, I partnered with Judge Reese to begin an assisted outpatient treatment, a life-saving, evidence-based therapeutic civil program that helps people with mental illnesses who have difficulty adhering to treatment when living in the community. The difference between our program and other specialty courts is that a crime need not be committed in order for someone to participate. This year, my organization also worked to get 3 bills passed, one to change language in the assisted outpatient treatment program to make it easier for families to use. Another bill brings together the House Health and Welfare Committee with the House Committee on Administration of Criminal Justice to work on a meaningful plan to decriminalize mental illness. Some of you may remember the Justice Reinvestment Initiative. I call my plan the Behavioral Health Reinvestment Initiative. Another bill we got passed this year requires the Louisiana Department of Health to study the cost of not caring to see where we are wasting money. Those are just some of the things I've initiated and I'm seeing through to completion. I'm seeking the title of sheriff so that I will be able to do so much more to help make our community safe, healthy, and whole. I hope you'll vote for me.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. We appreciate you being here tonight. Let's move to Ms. Susan Hudson.
Thank you. And you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, members of Justice and Beyond. Thank you for holding this forum and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Susan Hudson. I'm number 6 on the ballot and I am running for Orleans Parish Sheriff. And I am running on a platform of change, which includes the 3 C's of corrections: care, custody, and control. Because the safety of employees and incarcerated persons at the jail is solely the responsibility of the sheriff. After prayer and careful consideration about the current state and the future of the criminal justice system in Orleans Parish, and after watching our communities around the city and around the country get out in the streets and demand change, I know that after 17 years under the current leadership, we need a sheriff that embraces reforms. Well, I am your candidate for sheriff. That is why I left my job as independent police monitor, which I held for 11 years, and I have embarked on the next phase of my commitment to achieving a more fair and equitable justice system. In other words, I am running because I will be the change that I want to see. But I have the experience. Prior to becoming the independent police monitor, I worked as a defense attorney, as a prosecutor, as an assistant city attorney, handling employment matters like disciplining the police. And then in 2004, I started exclusively in dealing with law enforcement, including a stint at the Los Angeles Police Department, which was under a consent decree and which had detention facilities. And I helped them comply with their consent decree. So I know I can do the same thing here, remove the jail from federal control, return it back to community leadership's control. Because we can do better, we must do better. And if not now, then when? And for that reason, I'm asking for your vote to become your sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson. We appreciate you being here. Dr. Christopher Williams, same question for you.
Good evening, Justice and Beyond. I would like to thank you guys for inviting me. I'm Dr. Christopher Williams, number 7 on the ballot. My platform includes Leadership Matters. Number 1, restoring order to the Orleans Parish Sheriff Office, reforming inmates, and reform training to the Orleans Parish Sheriff Department. I have 32 years of law enforcement experience, came up through the ranks from sergeant to lieutenant to police commander. I'm a 2-time chief of police at Dillard University, and the Department of Veteran Affairs. I attended the National FBI Command Institute, and I'm an adjunct professor of criminal justice at Dillard University and Southern University in New Orleans. And to include, I started my career at the New Orleans Sheriff Department. My vision is to transform the Orleans Parish Sheriff into a world-class law enforcement professional department by providing deputies with the knowledge, the tools, and the technology and equipment to protect the citizens of New Orleans and to also save lives. I'm number 7 on the ballot. I'm asking for your support and your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. We're going to continue in alphabetical order from where we started with the next person up, and that is Ms. Janet Hayes. But this question will be for each of you. We recognize that mental health and other acute disabilities are happening with our those who are residents of the Orleans Parish Prison and in our society as a whole. We would like for you to answer what is the role of the Orleans Parish Prison Sheriff as it accustoms or as it relates to mental health issues in our community. Ms. Janet Hayes.
Thanks so much for that question, Pastor Manning. So, as you know, I have in well, mental health care, mental illnesses, serious mental illnesses, and there is a difference. And so when we're talking about the jail population, I want to make sure that we're understanding when we're talking about mental health, all of us have mental health issues, including inmates in the jail. That could be from anxiety. If you put me in jail today, I would likely experience a lot of those emotional disturbances, possibly suicidology. But then there's also the population in the jail with serious mental illnesses, many who don't recognize that they have a mental illness and therefore will not seek treatment on their own. And this has been a sticking point between two sides. One that one ideology says we shouldn't interfere with these folks and let them, do what they want and assist them to be sick while living on the streets and, in and out of hospitals. And the other side, we should intervene to help. So, and that actually, I want to talk about the phase 3. And so the FEMA money that has been allocated to the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office is to accommodate for people who have been forced into the criminal justice system by our mental health laws that have required them to be dangerous before we can initiate treatment care. Every day I deal with families with heart-wrenching tragedies who were unable to get their loved ones before they became dangerous. The FEMA money must stay with that population. Our goal should be not to discriminate against people living with untreated and untreated mental illnesses on the basis of behavior. The goal should be to get them in treatment. That said, I do not believe that we need a big mental health jail nor a small mental health jail. My plan is to use those FEMA dollars to build a phase 3 specialty hospital in parish and overseen by the state mental health system. It would be a satellite of the Forensic Civil Hospital in Jackson, or closer to home, so doctors, lawyers, and families are closer to their patients, clients, and loved ones, saving a 3-hour trip up and down the highway. The New Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office can contract for laundry, meals, and security, thereby making multiple
Time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hayes. All right, let's move on to Susan Hudson. What is the role of the Orleans Parish Prison Sheriff in dealing with mental health issues?
Well, first of all, great question. And first of all, this corresponds to the first C of correction, care. And that is care for the people who are employed, but also housed at the Orleans Justice Center. As the NAACP notes, the cost of an unjust system is high, and we have been bearing that cost for a long time. We must fully resource community health and substance abuse programs and not build this mental health or special needs jail. I think the sheriff noted that people just have their head in the sand or underwater or something like that. Well, there's a lot of people in this community who feel the same way. The president is already committed to giving more resources in community for mental health and substance abuse. And we must work with our legislators to do better, to fully fund local community mental health and substance abuse treatment. By the way, the caregiver at the jail right now, because we talked about buildings don't give jail, do not give care. People do. And the people currently giving care, WellPath, have been sued hundreds of times all over this country for substandard medical and mental health care. We can do better. We don't need to keep jailing people for substance abuse or mental health issues. We need to have resources that anyone in the community can use. So I'm against phase 3, and I work with the legislators and the council to do better. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Susan Hudson. Let's move on to Dr. Williams.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
I'm sorry, who is that?
Can I ask a question?
I'm sorry, who is this?
Chi.
All right, so questions will be asked at 6 o'clock by the participants in the on the forum tonight.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Dr. Williams.
Thank you. As my counterpart has said, I somewhat agree in reference to phase 3. I'm not with the idea of warehousing individuals with health capacity. However, as the sheriff, my job would be to ensure that they have proper treatment and impartial treatment. That treatment should go from the jail cell actually into the community, whereas they would be treated while on the outside as well versus the inside. when we look at everything that's going on with mental health, it also involves individuals with PTSD as well. So we can't leave them out, include those individuals with anxiety. Now, most importantly, why I don't agree with the phase 3 is because I think we need to reform inmates so that they would have some type of training program. So my idea is to take half of that facility and turn it into a training program that would teach inmates
Yes.
Well, hold on, Sheriff. Dr. Williams, something happened to your sound.
I think
Continue.
he had a stroke.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Hold on. All other phones or devices that are not on mute, please take this moment right now to mute your phone. If we have participants who are disrupting this meeting by chiming in out of order, then we will have no choice but to put you out of this call. And so I'm asking you once again to please put your phone on mute. At 6 o'clock, we will take questions from our participants. Dr. Williams, it is your time for probably about 30 more seconds. I apologize.
I'm
I'm sorry. I was leading up to, I would take half of that phase 3 and turn it into a training program so inmates would be able to get certification training in electrical, plumbing, computer aid drafting, CDL license, so that they would be able to get a job once they leave the prison system. The problem is that's why our recidivism rate is so high, because we don't have a proper training program for inmates while they are incarcerated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Sheriff Gusman.
Yes, thank you. First, let's make sure we understand that this is not a mental health facility. The only people that come to the jail are people that are accused of crimes. So if they are accused of a crime, they'll come to us. And we've had, we still do have people here with severe mental illnesses that are accused of crimes. We need to have a facility where we can properly take care of them.
For people like me.
Get them into counseling. We have a temporary facility right now that is woefully inadequate, and we can make this better. Everybody, and you can talk about who's got their head in the sand or who's got their head underwater,
Oh, that's so
but
nice.
everybody involved with this issue knows that it is needed. Some people advocate for a retrofit, makeshift. We shouldn't makeshift this. We should do it right. We should do it with the money that's provided for by FEMA. And this is more than just a mental health facility. This is a medical infirmary. It's a visitation center. It's a laundry. This is a place where people can connect with their loved ones. This is a place where we can help people become healed. So, look, we got to stop talking about how, we can do other things with mental health people. Look, mental health is real, and it's real over here at the jail. We can do this right. We ought to do it right. The judge wants to do it right, and we do it right.
Thank you, Sheriff Gusman, for that. I'm going to ask, I don't know who I'm looking at on my screen right now, but I need for this person, Sylvia Myron. I need for this person either to be off this call or to cease with the interruption by their video and their phone. I need that to happen promptly. And so we're moving to now, Susan Hudson is up next. I want to ask a question. Susan, you have suggested during your campaign for several different reforms to happen within the Orleans Parish Prison. And I want to talk a little bit about some reforms that some have suggested, and want all of you to weigh in on this. it has been well known that there are recordings that are taken of inmate conversations. I don't want to use the term
To be
inmate.
honest, I don't really care.
Uh, uh, Sylvia. Sylvia. Hello.
They're removed.
We got it, Pastor.
Thank you. Thank you.
We got it.
Thank you. And so there are recordings that are taken of residents' conversations between their lawyers and family members, and those are then stored in a database. Talk to us a little bit about whether you would continue that process, and if you believe that is a necessary component of what we do when we house people in the Orleans Parish Prison. Please, Ms. Hudson.
I'm sorry, and Pastor, it was broken up a little bit, but you said speak about the recording of attorney-client privileged phone calls.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this goes to the first C of corrections, of the 3 C's of corrections as well, care. You have to care about the Constitution. You have to care about the constitutional right to independent legal representation and not record these calls. The bar takes care of attorneys who are doing things wrong. We don't need to be worried about that. What we need to be worried about is a criminal justice system where things are in balance, where we have defense attorneys able to reach their clients, able to properly represent their clients, and not be recorded and put in some database to be used by who knows whom, because it's not being used here locally, but respect their right to one of the most privileged areas of the law, and it's been around for a long time. So I'm absolutely against recording attorney-client privileged phone calls, and I'm for making sure that people who are defending people who are in jail have proper facilities to meet with them, or Zoom or something to do better, so that we can make sure that people's right to be properly represented is absolutely held up. Thank you.
And so to be clear, during your first 100 days, would you eliminate those recordings?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's an easy way to be able to do that, and I would absolutely just make sure it's not done. Yes, I do agree to that.
Thank you very much. All right, let me move on to Dr. Williams.
Well, I would say this is a clear violation, and we're threading the lines between the U.S. amendments here. I mean, this is a clear violation of the First Amendment, and it goes on possibly to the Fourth Amendment as well. And this go right along with restoring order within the Orleans Parish jail system. This is just many of the other things that we have saw in the past in 2016 with the videos that ranging from inmates drinking in the system, drugs, gun violation, going to the club. But no, I would definitely get rid of the client attorney privilege recording devices from day one.
All right, thank you, Dr. Williams. Sheriff Gusman.
Okay, so let me set the record straight. I'm a lawyer. I'm an officer of the court. I would not, do not, have not recorded privileged attorney-client phone calls. Wouldn't do it, don't do it. And anyone who says it, I just say, show me the proof. Now, there is a great need to prevent illegal activity, to prevent contraband from coming into the institution, to prevent people from continuing their illegal enterprises while they're still incarcerated. Yes, and we do record those phone calls. We do put them into a database. It's important. It's a best practice in every institution across the country. We do not record attorney-client privilege phone calls, period. We don't do that. Now, with the advent of cell phones, we've asked lawyers to register with us so that their phone, when their phone is registered with us, we do not record their calls. It's that simple. For anyone to suggest otherwise, it's just a flat out lie.
Thank you, Sheriff Gussman, for that point of clarification for your answer. Let's move on to Ms. Janet Hayes.
Well, I agree with my colleagues that attorney-client privilege should be respected and that calls between inmates and their attorneys must be kept private. Otherwise, it's impossible for the attorneys to represent their clients constitutionally. While the clients deserve constitutional rights, but the attorneys are working for these clients. And, you know, if folks are listening in on their phone calls, then of course people will not be candid on the phone. They will not necessarily be honest on the phone, which will, you know, the result of that, the consequences will be, you know, inappropriate outcomes as the individual moves on through the justice system. So no, I absolutely, you know, agree with my other colleagues that no, phone calls should not be recorded. And in my first 100 days, I would also eliminate that practice if it's going on.
All right, thank you very much. All right, I think I got to everybody on that question. Got a little thrown off there for a minute. So want to continue. Let's talk about phase 3 versus retrofit. And where that plays in. And many of you have pinged on that and mentioned in some way or another the phase 3 that many of us on this call know about. And so I want to talk about whether you would try to take decisive measures to try to end any further creation of the phase 3, or if you would just let that ride out. Or would you really be in favor of retrofitting what we have now in order to accommodate those with mental health issues? Let's speak to that. And let's see, I believe I'm at Dr. Williams, if you will, we'll begin with you.
As I previously said, the way it's designed now, it may be earmarked already for the current dollars that your previous sheriff have. But that doesn't deter us from using a portion of it as a training facility. So back to the answer that I gave previously, I would use it to ensure that we can reduce the recidivism rate by ensuring that inmates receive some type of certification and training prior to them going home. At the end of the day, my job is to ensure that the public is safe. If the inmates return home without some type of certification, such as plumbing, electricity, then they're going to result right back to the same old thing, crime. We need to give them something to do, social and economic benefits, by allowing them to get some type of certification where they can aid their families and they can have a job from 9 to 5 to keep them off of the street.
All right, thank you, Dr. Williams. Sheriff Gussman.
So we're talking about the special needs building, and the special needs building, as I said before, projected right now at 89 beds, which includes beds for medical, includes bed for male, female, includes a visitation center, includes the laundry. And it's so important for us to make sure that we take care of this special population. I think most people either have been touched directly or indirectly by someone with a mental illness. And unfortunately, sometimes that mental illness gravitates towards criminal behavior, criminal actions. And that's when the sheriff's office comes in. We do not want to be a mental health facility that treats everybody in the community. I do think that's needed. I think, unfortunately, a previous governor got rid of them and closed them. But look, let's do the right thing here. Let's make sure we take care of the people that are mentally ill while they're going through this criminal procedure. Now, if we don't, we're not doing the best for our community, and we can do better. So I think there's confusion about it. Look, this was something that's agreed to. It's already been ordered by the court. There's an appeal that's going to be, let that appeal go on. But this is something that's needed in the community.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. Janet Hayes.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks. I'm glad to get this question back because I wasn't able to finish my last thing that I was talking about this. So I'm in the middle. I actually agree with Sheriff Guzman that we do need a special needs facility. Just to be clear, it is being built for people with serious mental illnesses. I disagree with Susan that we need, and the reason for that is that these are folks who have, again, been forced into the criminal justice system by our mental health laws that require dangerousness and grave disability before we can intervene to get treatment for them. When they meet those requirements, then we put them in jail. And this is often after they have failed or the families have failed over and over again to try to get treatment in any other kind of system, hospitals or anything else that's available. They've exhausted all possibilities. These folks have gotten very, very sick, and they end up in the jail, and they're held until they go to the forensic hospital. So again, what I'm suggesting is that we do build a special needs facility, but instead of a jail, we make it a hospital, and we put it under the jurisdiction of psychiatrists who have the knowledge and ability to treat people, especially when they don't want treatment. Let's be clear, a lot of these people end up in the jail because their illness prevents them from knowing they have an illness, and therefore they will not seek help voluntarily, and that's why they're the most likely to fall through the gap. We have to do better, and we shouldn't discriminate on the basis of behavior. If two people have a serious mental illness and one results in a misdemeanor and the other results in a violent crime, to treat the illness regardless of the behavior. And I have a whole plan for this, which will be on my website, which should launch this week. So you can go there and read more details about what I'm suggesting can happen here. But this again, no to a phase 3 mental health jail, yes to a phase 3 mental health hospital. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Susan Hudson.
Thank you. This particular question corresponds to C number 1 and C number 3, care and control. So obviously we have to do better for folks there. And then control, we have to be accountable, transparent, and we have to listen to community leadership. And so our community has come up with a couple of different options for retrofitting. I say that we all have to sit down together and be heard. Right now, the consent decree process is not super community friendly, but our community needs to be a part of this. I've spoken to 2 different legislators who said we can work on these FEMA dollars to repurpose them and do better and use those appropriately. As somebody has put in the chat, this is not a wise use of public funds. We can do better, and it's only for 89 beds. And we have a brand new, well, fairly new facility, less than 10 years old, that is a little over half full. So there is a plan to retrofit that. There's a community plan to retrofit other buildings. We got to sit down and talk about it together, listen to community leadership, and then fight this issue. The sheriff says, well, there's an order. Well, consent decrees, as I can tell you, because this would be my 3rd consent decree of helping a law enforcement agency comply with that consent decree. These are court orders for change, and they are living, breathing documents, and they change over time, and you can work with the judge to change things. But you got to be willing to do that, and you got to be part of that change. So we all have to be rowing in the same direction, which is to have a complete system, one that houses people appropriately in the jail, that has facilities outside the jail to treat our community. We have to be able to do it all, and we can repurpose these dollars to do that. So yeah, let's listen to our community. Let's let our community have leadership in this, and let's absolutely do something better.
All right, thank you, Susan Hudson. Let us move then back to Ms. Hayes for this next round of questions. I want to talk a little bit about the housing of immigrants, and particularly what you see. Am I still here?
Yep.
Okay, I don't know what happened. Okay, and particularly what you see, it would be the Orleans Parish Prison and the sheriff's relation to ICE and the housing of immigrants, and what your policy would be in terms of that. And so, Janet, you're up first.
Thank you so much for the question. So I absolutely oppose housing undocumented immigrants in OJC. And I know that the current sheriff has made it clear that he has a policy right now is to not house immigrants who are undocumented in OJC that are ICE hold. I will absolutely continue that policy. I do not believe that undocumented immigrants should be in our jails, but maybe not in any jail or prison. But as for the Orleans Parish Jail or Orleans Justice Center, it will be my policy. Absolutely, I will not work with ICE on that. I will not put undocumented immigrants in jail just to hold them. No.
All right, thank you. Susan Hudson.
Thank you. This is, again, C number 1, care, and C number 3, control. As the independent police monitor, we had to oppose NOPD being a part of ICE's network of corralling human beings and locking them up without actual court orders, just ICE holds, which are not necessarily court orders. And so that is absolutely unjust and would not be something I would be a part of at all. Unequivocally, I say I would not work to hold people on ICE detainers, would not work with ICE to round folks up. I'm absolutely against that. That's federal government's job, then the federal government can do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Susan. Dr. Williams.
Okay, well, I disagree with my counterpart on this one as it relates to not working with other law enforcement agencies. That's what got us to where we are now. The sheriff department is being dormant in the aid of the community. I would work with ICE, and also we may need to make some space to develop a federal tier with a small portion of it going to undocumented immigrants. I mean, approximately what? We get $78,000 per person. You know, we have to work together with the other law enforcement agency to reduce crime. Yes, we can come together and conduct a turnover at a later date and time, but we must make space for those individuals until they are properly transferred.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Sheriff Gusman.
Okay, so I do not hold ICE detainees. As a matter of law, ICE detainers are a civil detainer, not a criminal detainer. They're not a criminal detainer. So we don't hold ICE detainees. We have a clear policy that when someone who's undocumented is arrested and ICE asks us to hold them, we really don't communicate with ICE. So it's the only situations where we do have some is when they're charged with a serious offense like murder or rape. Other than that, we do not hold ICE detainees. It's a civil detainer and not a criminal matter like a fugitive warrant would be.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sheriff. And Sheriff, I want to apologize because I think you were actually supposed to be first in that round. And so I'm going to.
That's okay.
All right, thank you, sir. You'll be first in this round, this next line of questions. So Sheriff Gusman, and for the rest of you, I want you to talk a little bit about the role of rehabilitation within the Orleans Parish Prison and what that looks like for the residents there, not only to house them, but to ensure that there is some attention given to their rehabilitation to become productive citizens once they are let out in society. So, Sheriff Gusman, would you talk a little bit about that, the role of rehabilitation?
Yes, sir. So first of all, it's important for all of us to understand that, look, it's we're talking about rehabilitating people. This is why we have a transitional work program. This is why we have organizations like Goodwill, Delgado, UNO come in and work with us to help improve their skills, whether it's a job seeking skill, whether it's a skill in being able to engage with an employer. The reentry program is the feeder for the transitional work program. And the transitional work program is probably one of the best programs for rehabilitation because it gets people working, gets them with a job, and gets them in the habit of doing things. Our community service program is another way that we help people. They give back. They don't sit around all day and do nothing. You know, they're in the community, they're trying to do things. Admittedly, with the COVID and with the changes, it's a small program, but we're helping and touching those that we can. I think it's important for all of us to make sure that we hire people that are returning citizens. If we don't, then, you know, they're not going to get the opportunities that they deserve. Our day reporting center that we established, only the second in Louisiana, very important to help people that may be on their way back to jail, prevent them from going by giving them anger management, addicted to the lifestyle, and thinking for change. So all of these programs and more programs help people become better while they're going through the criminal process. Thanks.
Thank you, Sheriff Gusman. Ms. Janet Hayes, what would you do or initiate in order to ensure rehabilitation within the Orleans Parish Prison?
I love this. I can't wait to get started on this. But individuals with justice system involvement, when they come into the system, leads to that opportunity where we can then assist them with support services and programs to make their lives whole and help them become better citizens. That's going to look differently for different populations. The first thing we need to do is proper, valid, and respected evaluation training when a person comes into the jail to thoroughly assess what it is there for. The inmates in the jail tell the story also. You know, we can follow the line back to the court, back to the health system, how these individuals ended up in the criminal justice system in the first.
Janet, I want you to be most as effective as you can. And for some reason, you keep cutting out. I think when you were maybe closer to the microphone, it was steady. But then when you moved it, it was not as steady. You were cutting out quite a bit. So try to adjust if you can.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is it still stuttering? I haven't moved at all, so I'm
That's
not
good right there. Yeah.
Okay, where do you want me to start from?
Just pick up wherever you want.
Well, essentially, accountability leads to opportunities. So when someone comes to the criminal justice system, because of history that, you know, whatever they weren't getting in the community that they needed to stay out of the criminal justice system, that is then the opportunity we have to help them with support services and programs to help them make their lives whole. So those reentry programs are critical. We also need seamless transitions back into community. We need someone to meet them at the door with clothing, you know, housing, transportation. And so we may have to build some of that capacity in the community, which I am willing to advocate for in order to keep people from coming back into the jail. The same things that bring people into the jail are the same things that will keep them from recidivating back into the jail. So we have to work with everybody collectively to make that happen.
Thank you, Janet. Susan.
Thank you. Yeah, this definitely is the includes the second C of correction, custody, but also care. If we want to reduce recidivism through educational and employment opportunities. Absolutely, we as a community, Janet said this as well, but we as a community have to come together to make sure those resources are there. It starts upon entry, assessment. I was speaking to formerly incarcerated persons who told me the first thing you need to do when people get in there is assess what all of their needs are, whether it's medical, mental, substance abuse, mental health or substance abuse treatment. Look at all those issues, jobs, education, training. What are their issues? Assess first, find out about the person first, and make sure you meet all their needs individually. One size does not fit all. And then let's use this amazing community leadership. We have unions who can help us have jobs available. We have artists and musicians who can help with art therapy and something to do in the jail and allowing people to be able to express themselves. Art and music therapy is a proven solution. And then just making sure we make sure folks' educational needs are met and that they're training needs are also met. And when they leave, it doesn't have to stop there. We can still make sure that we have work with those reentry folks, other nonprofits, and other providers in our community to make sure that people's needs are met once they leave. We don't want to drop them when they get out and they're just on their own. I was speaking to a young man at church who had come out of after a stretch in prison, and he talked about the need to have more to do at the jail, as he had more to do once he got to prison, and then needing help when he got out to get that, to shed the incarceration, and to just be back in society like everybody else, and just to be our neighbor. So I'm absolutely for working with community leadership to meet those needs.
Thank you, Susan. Dr. Williams.
Well, this go right along with inmate reform. I would develop an integrated product team that composed of community leaders, students, clergymen, and subject matter experts within the field of criminal justice and the criminal justice arena. We'll take a review of the current inmate rehabilitation program and make recommendations for new programs such as online high school diplomas, getting their college degrees, and even apprenticeship training program. And once they're released from long-term incarceration and care, we'll do a follow-up to ensure that if whatever resources they need, following that, they're in touch with a resource worker.
All right, thank you, Dr. Williams. This is going to be my final question before we move to questions from the audience. And we're going to begin with Ms. Hudson first. But I want you to talk a little bit about why you see yourself, why you may or may not see yourself as a progressive candidate for the sheriff position, and what would make you appear, if you are, appear as progressive within those first 100 days? What policy or initiative would you take or put in place that would show yourself to be a progressive sheriff that stands out amongst other sheriffs within our United States? Ms. Hudson.
Okay, thank you. Of course, that corresponds to all 3 C's: care, custody, and control. But yeah, I do consider myself to be a progressive. As somebody who was a part of the system for a while, it took our community getting out in the streets since Michael Brown and Freddie Gray and others around the country. Once they got out in the street and just opened our eyes as to everything that's going on in the system, it brought back up all the teachings from back in the civil rights movement as well. Our system is broken. It is broken. It is unjust. It has every ism known to man in there. It is failing, and we do have to do better. And this community said we want to do better. And in its voting, it has voted for to flip the bench. It is, and to bring in defense attorneys as judges. It has voted to flip the prosecutor's office and to bring in somebody who is a progressive and reform and defense minded as well. And so the community is saying we want change. Well, the sheriff is the third part of that. You have to have everyone rowing in the same direction progressively. I am that progressive candidate. I do believe in reform. I do believe in these changes. I do believe that we have to reduce the size of the jail, reduce the amount of money that we're spending on incarcerating people, and use that for our community as a whole. We only want to keep people there who make us unsafe. And that's not everybody. And so we can do better with that. And so I'm definitely see myself as being a progressive. But the first thing I'm going to do when I'm the sheriff is to completely audit all of the finances. We have to see where all the money is going, all that's coming in and where it's all going, and then find ways to cut spending. So we want to bid appropriately so that we get the best costs and services for everything. We want to count for all public dollars and spend those wisely on our community and work on things that reduce recidivism. That is most important. So first thing first, we're going to do that. We're going to reassess everybody who works there. That's really important. I'm speaking to employees of the jail on a daily basis. Morale is low. They don't believe they're paid appropriately. They don't believe they're trained appropriately. So one of the first things we're going to do is look at all of that.
Time's up.
How are employees being treated? And just
Thank you, Ms. Hudson. Let's move on to Dr. Williams, please.
Well, thank you again. As it relates to me, yes, I will be that progressive sheriff. Being the second person within New Orleans to make me accountable, I believe that reform should definitely start with me. I'll be transparent. I'm going to restore order. I'm going to reform inmates, and I'm going to reform training. I think that's what it's going to take for someone to be progressive like myself. And I'm going to develop a professional pipeline with the business community to ensure that individuals are trained, hired once they're released from prison.
All right, thank you, Dr. Williams. Sheriff Gusman.
So thank you. I've been a progressive sheriff ever since I took office. When I was on the city council, I helped clean up, pass a domestic violence, domestic benefits ordinance for same-sex domestic partners. And I've been a reform sheriff since day one. I demolished all of the facilities that were used here or abandoned them. We built the Justice Center. We put a school in here, an accredited school. We established a day reporting center. We hire ex-offenders. We have body-worn cameras. We've doubled the pay for the staff here. And we're continuing to do training, continuing to do de-escalation. We're trying to do everything we can to have this facility be the best that it can be. We're trying now to have a special needs facility. It'll come, and together we're going to have this facility be one of the best in the world. Look, we came from low ceilings, dingy, dirty. Now we have high ceilings, clean facility, it's well run, well maintained. We're always going to have some people that aren't with the program because maybe they don't like the rules, but we've been working very hard to make sure that this facility is one of the best it can be. And whether it's programs, working with local health providers like Tulane School of Medicine, or whether it's working with local universities like UNO or Delgado, we're going to continue to work to help people become better. That's what progressive is about. It's not about what you're against, it's about what you're for.
Thank you, Sheriff Gusman. Janet Hayes.
Thank you so much for the question. So not only will I work to improve conditions in the jail by ensuring that all officers are trained in crisis intervention team training, mediation training through National Institute of Corrections, CPR and emergency response, suicide prevention training. I will also use my title to work to prevent seriously mentally ill people from coming into the criminal justice system in the first place. This is an idea that there's this idea we don't have enough money, but we have plenty of money, including a recent infusion of billions of dollars, like Susan Hudson said, from the federal government for programs and services. But those are voluntary programs and services, not for those who are the most sick. And we cannot abandon this population and leave them behind in the jail in favor of a different population. We need to take care of all the people in the jail, not just those who are easy to deal with. As sheriff, every inmate will be evaluated with valid and reliable screening tools to ensure proper placement or diversion from jail. Also, I will meet with in-reach staff embedded at the jail looking for more individuals with serious mental illness that slip through to put into diversion. I've worked with community leaders and legislators for years to solve this problem, but I believe that there needs to change. I know that it's the people of New Orleans that give so much to make their communities great, not politicians. New Orleans deserves a new sheriff that isn't beholden to political agendas or parties, someone who thinks independently and is ready to fight for change, and I'm that candidate. There's a crisis of safety in New Orleans, and our sheriff's office needs reform. Reform starts with clear vision and is followed through with a lot of honesty. I understand just how to plow through policy barriers and affect the type of changes that will change our current system of transient crisis care. I understand the work needed to reform our shelters, jails, and our group homes, and I'm ready to take on that challenge. And if you want to learn more about my work, just go to my organization. If there's any doubt that I can achieve this, just have a look at the work that I've already done. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. We're going to move now to our questions from the audience participants. Just two caveats as we go into this time together. Number one, we're only going to take one question for each candidate at a time. That means we're not going to have a barrage of questions directed towards one candidate. We'll get one and then move to another before we go back to that same another question for that very same candidate. Also, too, if there are those that are working on campaigns for a specific candidate that is up on this forum or is being paid by another organization to work against someone that is running, we ask that you would withhold your questions and yield to those that are not getting paid in some sort of form so that they can ask questions as those who may not be biased in any way, at least in a form that they're getting monetary compliments from their work. So let's begin with our questions. I'm going to ask that you would, if you have a question, if you want to write it down in the chat, we can do it that way. Or if you have a question, please use your reaction button at the bottom of your screen to hold your hand up and you will be called on. I'll pause for a minute or so in a little bit to take questions from those who are simply calling in by phone, since you do not show up in a way that we can recognize you by using your reaction button. So I'm going to ask Sylvia if she would let me know who has the first question.
Yes, sir. We have Miss Angela Chalk.
Okay, Angela, please.
Yes, thank you for Reverend Manning and Ms. McKenzie for this opportunity. So my question is, and however you choose to put that out to the candidates, in the question is, what outreach efforts will each candidate make to deter youth criminal activity? And what plans are in place for those persons who have a criminal history to train those individuals? They may not be incarcerated, but may have previously had an encounter with the justice system. And I put in some trainings that are likely to be skilled trades for the Sewage and Water Board, because they have a shortage of employees, as well as the RTA for streetcar maintenance, the traditional trades, apprenticeships of masonry, plastering, and tilers, and then the $740 billion green sector, which will bring online for green infrastructure project managers and maintenance managers.
All right, thank you for that question. Let's go with Dr. Williams first. And Dr. Williams, you're going to have 60 seconds to answer that.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, that goes right along with what I've been saying the entire time, that leadership matters. You know, first we have to restore order, reform inmate, and that goes along with providing them with a trade and apprenticeship programs such as electricity, plumbing, sheet metal, CDL, AC training, but most importantly, I think we need to look at, when it comes to the juvenile, a curfew. You know, a lot of times crime is existing because you have these youngsters outside at 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. Those are the things that we can get the sheriff department to start patrolling to aid NOPD to help fight crime. You know, that's one of the initiatives that I'm gonna look at doing. And everybody asks, where is the money gonna come from? Well, look, we'll reprioritize the budget and we'll cut and trim the meat somewhere else.
All right, Dr. Williams, Sheriff Gussman.
So the Sheriff's Office has the DARE program that participates with local elementary schools, drug abuse resistance education. We also have a Young Marines program where young people 8 through 16 come into our program. We just had a graduation or honorable discharge from the Young Marines program last week. 5 young individuals are going to college. One at Case Western Reserve, one at Tuskegee, one at Northwestern, and other universities in the state. But the reentry program is great at helping people with skills. The community service program that we have helps people get into the habit of working after they've been incarcerated. We've worked with Dr. Beverly Wright, getting training on environmental remediation. We're working now with Job One to do some training for jobs there. This is the kind of thing that everybody's got to be involved with. Rehabilitation, reentry is important. As part of our day reporting center, everyone has to have an internship, and then when they graduate, lots of them already have jobs. So the day reporting center has been really great at helping people get jobs, keep jobs, as well as I mentioned before, the transitional work program. You know, I hire here transitional workers. And the good thing about it is, as with a lot of other employers, they keep their jobs. And you can come here today and see a number of people working as plumbers, electricians, carpenters, who are here working at the sheriff's office that were formerly incarcerated.
Thank you, Sheriff Gusman. Janet Hayes.
Great. Yes, thank you so much for that question, Angela. I would absolutely keep all of your programs, reentry programs that Sheriff Guzman mentioned, and any other programs that are being mentioned by the other two candidates and you and the community. I mean, as sheriff, I want the community to hold me accountable. Crime is a community problem and we need a community solution. So again, accountability doesn't mean punishment, but when somebody commits a crime, then they need to be held accountable. But that's that opportunity. That's that moment where we can say, hey, what's wrong? What happened in your life that you ended up doing what you did that landed you where you are? Is it a mental health problem? Is it a serious mental illness? Is it cultural, peer pressure, education problem, maybe a learning disability, maybe ADHD? We don't know, right? Or maybe we do know. And that's where families are so important. Families are the historians of their children, and we need to listen to families. They will tell those stories. We need to, again, come together as a community, as a group. We need to form a collaboration. We need all system actors at the table, and we need somebody who's trusted, who can bring all actors together, who doesn't carry that baggage where, where people are have past histories of divisions. They don't want to talk to each other. We are all to blame for the problems in our society, and we all need to take responsibility for that. And we all need to work together to make it better.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Ms. Hudson.
Thank you. That goes to all 3 C's of corrections: care, custody, and control. When I was the police monitor, we started a project where we were looking at the policing of children, which is the school to prison pipeline, and what can we do to interrupt that or absolutely eliminate it. And so we sat down and started speaking to everybody who are experts on children, whether it's in the schools, whether it's the Office of Families and Children, whether it's nonprofits, whomever is out there working with kids and trying to do better for them. We sat down and talked to them about how do we keep from getting children into this system. We have to do the same thing. I think Janet said this similarly. You have to do the same thing. You have to have the community come together. People who are experts on kids, but you do have to ask them what's wrong. You do have to ask them what happened. How did you get here? You have to figure that out. So they're not really different than it is for adults. As I said before, we have to assess, figure out what the needs are, provide the medical, mental health, and substance abuse needs, and then train, educate, and make sure they have opportunities out there. That's the same thing that we all need, and that's what we have to make sure that our youth have as well.
Thank you, Susan. Sylvia, what's the next question?
I was trying to read Miss Caroline's question. Miss Caroline, can you read it? Because it's not pulling up for me.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Sylvia. My question is, my name's Caroline Center. My question is, what accommodations will you make for transgender inmates, both in terms of housing and in medical care?
All right. Thank you, Caroline. Let's go to Sheriff Gusman first.
So for transgender population, certainly they'll be classified. They'll be classified and we will put them in the proper housing unit according to their sex, not according to what they want to be, but what they actually are at the time. I don't know if I'm being clear on that, and that's another reason why we need the special needs building, so that we can put people with special needs in an area where they can be properly cared for. Most of the transgender do not go well into a general population unit. It's another reason why it's not accurate to say that the jail is half full. The jail has places for each person, you know, whether they're a predator, victim, male, female, whether they're a mental health step down, whether they are going through a medical situation. So you have to have all of these different places for people that are in different situations.
Sheriff Gusman, I'm just going to do a follow-up question because, as you said, as you implied, the first part of that was a little unclear to me. And so you said they will be housed according to what they state that they are, not according to what they want to be, something to that effect. Could you clear that up?
But, yeah, no, what I said was they'll be housed according to what they are.
Okay, so what their birth certificate states.
Yeah, well, no, because if they're transgender, they may have undergone the operation, and if they are, then they've made the change, and they're another gender.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. Just wanted to clear that up. All right. Janet Hayes will be next.
Yeah, hi, Caroline. Thank you for that question. And so, well, the very first thing that I'm going to do is convene a special group, community advisory group, to, you know, come to the LGBTQ people to give me information that I need to know how they feel safe in the jail, what accommodations they would best need in order for them to feel safe in the jail. So I'm going to consult with the people who are actually impacted, and, you know, especially people who have experienced years of discrimination in the past. And of course, that continues on inside the jail. And so we definitely want people to be in spaces away from other individuals who may be discriminating or harassing them, you know, and they should have all of the constitutional rights that everybody else in the jail has. But again, in order for that to happen, I need to hear from that community to hear exactly what they need and what they, you know, require in order to have their needs met well.
All right. Thank you, Janet. Susan.
Thank you. This touches on both care, custody, and control. But one of the things we know about the current sheriff's office is that it's under federal court jurisdiction because of violence, rapes, and deaths in the jail. That's one part of it. And the other part of it is substandard medical and mental health. And so we know that people are not safe in there. They have not been safe. Rapes, deaths, suicides, etc., going down, overdoses. So we know it's not safe in there. So we do have to make sure that we are treating folks who are non-binary. We need to treat them accordingly. And so we know that sex and gender are not synonymous. Those are not the same things. And you have to talk to those folks and figure out how to house them better. So they're doing something innovative in places like San Antonio, and they're looking at this at the LA County Jail as well. When you classify somebody, which is you determine where they're going to be housed at to see if they have some type of gang affiliation, so on and so forth, you have to classify them to figure out where they belong. Include transgender folks and non-binary folks as a part of those discussions. You have staff involved, you have the mental health staff also involved, and those people that you're trying to classify and put in a position to keep them safe. So we want them to be able to be where they identify, but we have to work that out with the people who keep everybody safe and with those people that we're trying to keep safe. And make sure that they have all that they need, whether it's their medicines, if they're undergoing change, make sure that they have whatever it is, whatever their needs are for that, for their change that they're going through in life. We got to make sure that all their needs are met. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Williams, you're next.
Well, I think we will classify them based on their sexual orientation of what they want to be called. And of course, yes, we need standard help for them. And we also need a member of the LGBT community to assist us and provide us in the right directions and ensure that we have resources to help those individuals.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Williams. Sylvia, who's next?
Yes, Ms. Allison McCrary.
Go ahead, Allison.
Hi. Yeah, I was wanting to know what changes are going to be made around the internal affairs department of the sheriff's office. In any time where I've tried to file a complaint about deputies, or if someone were to file a commendation, the phone number for internal affairs has been incorrect on the website. There's been no forms to file complaints or commendations. You know, if you go to NOPD or the Independent Police Monitor, or PIB, you can easily file complaints, and it's usually automatically filed as a complaint. When I've called to file a complaint, they've insisted that I had, even during the pandemic, that I had to go in person to file a complaint, that I could file a complaint online or by email or by phone, but I had to go in person to the office. And then they don't automatically document it as a complaint. And then no information is ever given around follow-ups or next steps, even with multiple emails and calls to check on it. So I was just wondering what improvements you all want to see made around internal affairs.
All right. Let me go to Susan Hudson first.
Well, first of all, that has to do with control of the jail. And what I've said about control this whole time is about accountability and transparency. As the Independent Police Monitor, I help spearhead the ability for people to be able to call in and make complaints, file them online, file them anonymously, and be able to file for third parties. So you could file for somebody else as well. So we made it easy. We wanted to remove any barriers to being able to file. You can file one at the Independent Police Monitor's office by tweeting, Facebook, or any other method of communication. So make it easy, remove barriers, make sure that people know how to get to you, whether they speak a different language or not. So that's all very important. And then you have to be accountable and transparent about it. We spearheaded, we started first publishing NOPD's internal affairs data about the number of complaints, uses of force, the types, the outcomes. We spearheaded that. When I got here in 2010, that was not being published. We made sure that was published. We will make sure that is published here as well. We will make sure the community knows what's going on with their complaints, as I did as Independent Police Monitor. And then we're going to hold people accountable. As the Independent Police Monitor, I didn't get to issue discipline. As the sheriff, I absolutely will.
Thank you, Susan. Dr. Williams.
I wholeheartedly agree with my colleague. First of all, we have to restore order. Right now, the sheriff department is still under a federal takeover, but someone should answer the phone if you have a complaint. So number one, we restore order. Number two, we publish the correct phone numbers. And number three, most importantly, we have to clean house. You have to start with an entire new makeover of your entire SID system. I know it may seem crazy, but that's what needs to happen in order to start off fresh.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Sheriff Gussman.
First, answering Ms. McCrary directly, if you have any problem getting through, you can always call my office. We are not under a federal takeover right now. We're under a federal consent agreement, which means that we have to comply with a number of provisions. And we're actually 97% in compliance, either substantially or partially with all of those provisions. If there's something wrong on the website, wish you'd have brought it to my attention because you could have helped other people as well as yourself. We have put the Internal Affairs Department on a separate location away from the jail facility to make it easier. I know the pandemic has brought on all sorts of problems and hardships on everyone, but rest assured, I'll check into this and see if there's any problem with the complaints that are being filed, because we want to get to the bottom of every single last one. Thanks.
Thank you, Sheriff. Janet Hayes.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I agree with Ms. Hudson and Mr. Williams that we absolutely need to clean house. Systems need to work for everybody, not just for people if you know somebody. We need to upgrade the technology in the jail, electronic records keeping, digital technology to bring in some, fresh, bright, young kids who know how to do that kind of stuff. And absolutely need to keep everything transparent and on track. There should be no reason for anything to be hidden in the jail. Again, we're a community. The jail, the inmates are part of our community. And we all need to work together to ensure that, there is accountability from the sheriff to the community and vice versa, but also transparency. I am all for that. I've always been for that. And I'm also a problem solver. If there's a problem, I'm going to solve it. You can count on that. If you look at my work again, that's all that I do. Even in my own meetings, I have always left them open to the public to attend, even when other people didn't want that. So.
All right. Thank you, Janet. Let's move on, Sylvia, to our final question from the audience. It may be the final one, I believe.
Well, we have several that come in chat, but Ms. Darlene Jones asks, why should the people of NOLA trust you to be their sheriff?
All right. Let's see.
And that's for all candidates she has.
All right. Let's go to Janet Hayes first. I'll give you 30 seconds to answer that one, Janet, real quick.
Well, I love that question because one of the reasons I'm running, I'm running because I want to be sheriff. Well, actually, I'm running because I feel like I need to be sheriff. I'm no party. I'm independent, unbossed, unbought, not running because someone said, hey, I have an agenda. Will you be the face of it? I'm not running. I don't have all of the political ties, a lot of different actors in the city who have traditionally controlled politics. I'm 100% independent, 100% accountable. I am accountable to you, the community, and myself, and nobody else.
Thank you. Susan Hudson.
Thank you, Reverend Manning. And how long do we have? I'm sorry.
30 seconds.
Oh, okay, took up some of that. When I came here 11 years ago as the independent police monitor, I was chosen by this community, and I was chosen by this community because they saw I had the know-how to do the job, and they knew I wasn't going to play politics. And that's going to be the exact same thing that's going to happen when I'm the sheriff. It's about community leadership, listening to our community, instituting the reforms that our community wants to see, and not being under this federal jurisdiction any longer, complying with the law, doing the right thing. That's why you should vote for me for sure.
Thank you. Dr. Williams?
Well, after 32 years of law enforcement experience, reforming 2 police departments, I feel that you should vote for me because I have the most experience, and most importantly, I'm retired. I'm my own support. I don't have anybody backing me. And I'm here because the people need me, based on the tremendous amount of encouragement from the citizens, community leaders, and the criminal justice community. This decision is not about me. It's about how we can come together and solve crime within the city. So I'm here for you, Christopher Williams. Vote for me, number 7 on the ballot.
All right, Sheriff Gusman.
So the people should vote for me because since I've been sheriff, I've reduced the jail from over 6,000 to 900 on an average daily population. We've demolished or abandoned every building that was here. We've worked hard with reentry programs, day reporting center. We've worked hard to help people become better when they leave. Our transitional work programs, our self-improvement programs that are here with Goodwill, with Delgado, UNO, and going from remote supervision to direct supervision. All of these things have helped make this a better place and a better run institution.
All right, very good. Those were almost pretty much closing remarks, and we're going to have to end it there. But I do want to give you an opportunity to just either clear anything up that you didn't get a chance to say as we just give closing remarks to all of our candidates. And you have 60 seconds in which to do that. We'll start with Dr. Williams. Closing remarks, please, sir.
Well, I just want to take the time to thank you guys again for allowing me to speak. And as I said earlier, look, the decision is not about me. It's about how we can better the community and provide a safer environment conducive for human consumption. As a former chief of police and a United States Army veteran, I will work proactively and diligently to serve and protect our community and to ensure that crime is dealt with, to include enter into an endeavor agreement with the city of New Orleans so that the New Orleans Sheriff Department would be back patrolling the streets, writing tickets while NOPD take care of the more violent crime. So again, thank you. Number 7 on the ballot, Christopher Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Christopher Williams. Sheriff Gusman, final remarks.
Let me thank you, Pastor Manning, and also Justice and Beyond for having this forum. Look, I've been a progressive sheriff since day one. I said that we had the 8th largest jail system and we should close it. We should be safer, smaller, and more secure. Closed OPP, HOD, open a justice center. We're not in the business of warehousing inmates anymore to make money. We're bringing services to the inmates. We've talked a lot tonight about the special needs building. That's a clear distinction. This is something that we need. This is not something that should be makeshift, not something that should be retrofit. This is something that we ought to have in our community. No one's talked about the other side, which is the civil division. Put new software in the civil division, which makes it more efficient. We do a lot with TROs, domestic violence, and all sorts of civil process. We can be better, and we're going to be better. We're on the right road. I'm number 4. Please support me, and I'd like your vote.
Thank you, Sheriff Gusman. Janet Hayes.
Thanks, Pastor Manning, for allowing us these final remarks. So I want to close with a story. I'm helping a mom right now. Has been, can you hear me okay? I'm hearing a feedback again, but this mother's son has been committed 98 times. He's 25 years old. He's very sick. He's deteriorating and getting worse. He has cost the state more than $3.5 million over the course of his commitments for nothing. Return on investment has been nothing. We're flushing millions and millions of dollars down the toilet. This poor individual, we are now waiting for him to commit a crime so that we can get him into the jail and up to the forensic hospital, because that's all there is for him. And just to be clear, all of the Philip Guzman and and the other candidate, Susan Hudson, are willing to leave these people behind. They're not about solving the problem for these folks. I'm about solving the problem for everybody in the jail, regardless of whether or not they have a mental illness or whatever the crime was. We are going to hold people accountable. But for people that don't have the ability to make choice because they're too sick, they shouldn't be in the jail.
Time's up.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hayes and Ms. Hudson. Go ahead, Susan, closing remarks.
Sorry. fumbling for the buttons there. Okay. Thank you again for this amazing forum, and thank you for allowing me to speak. 11 years ago, I answered the call from the citizens of New Orleans and the residents of this city as your police monitor. Prior to working as your police monitor and helping to reform the NOPD to the point that they did not shoot at one single human being in 2018. But prior to doing that, I was a prosecutor, I was a defense attorney, an assistant city attorney. So I've seen the justice system from every side, and I know how to reform it. And in fact, I worked at the LAPD and helped them to comply with their consent decree, and they also had detention facilities. So I provided oversight in that capacity as well. When I started working with the police monitor's office, I had to deal with NOPD, which was under investigation from the Department of Justice and one of the worst police departments in the country, and we've helped to bring them a long way. So I will help to restore your trust in the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, help them comply with the consent decree, and usher in community leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you to each of our candidates for this evening. We're very grateful that you took the time to be with us tonight and to answer all of these questions. And we wish you the greatest of success as you continue to campaign. Please continue to come back to Justice and Beyond, and know that whenever our candidates come back, you will get an opportunity to speak for 1 to 2 minutes, and so that the people can hear your voice and hear your brief statement on your platform. So thank you again for being here. We do have Maxwell, who is joining us real quickly to speak about housing. Is he here tonight, Sylvia?
He was in the audience. You're there, Max?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Maxwell, can you do this in about 5 minutes?
I'll be quick. I'm sure folks want to get moving. So I'm just coming to talk about our local housing trust fund. We're one of the only cities in the South that has a self-financed housing trust fund. It's called the Neighborhood Housing Improvement Fund, and it is set to expire this year. And thanks to Justice and Beyond's help and all of your help, a lot of you signed on along with 79 other organizations to ask the City Council to put this on the ballot so that we can renew it. And keep the $3 to $4 million it generates every year coming in now as we're again in the middle of a housing crisis. So I want to thank you all for that. The council did vote unanimously to put it on the ballot in July, and so you will see it on the November ballot. Just as a reminder, our system works. We have a first ballot in October, and then runoffs and the NIF millage alongside the library millage will be on the ballot in November. And a yes vote will be to just continue things as they are. So taxes don't increase. We continue to collect the same amount of money. It continues to be dedicated towards affordable housing. And it is currently dedicated to create affordable homeownership, affordable rental housing opportunities, and blight remediation. Those are the 3 things that it can be used for. So I would just ask, I'm happy to take any questions, but I would just ask for folks to vote yes. I'm sure everyone saw all the news in the past week or so that the national eviction moratorium was set to expire and then was extended. It did expire and then was extended a few days later. We were on the brink of having potentially tens of thousands of families homeless. We have 16,000 people waiting for rental assistance from the city of New Orleans. And the city has said they do not have enough money to make sure that they can assist everyone. So to allow this millage to expire in the midst of this crisis would be criminal. And so I really appreciate all of y'all's support. Ask for your vote in support of that, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Maxwell, can you, I don't know if you've added it yet, any of your contact information so those who have questions can contact you directly? Email address, phone number?
I can certainly do that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions, but please get a hold of Maxwell so that if you need further information about this important vote for yes. Let me move to any candidates, other candidates besides Sheriff, that are on the line tonight. We always give you an opportunity to speak for about a minute just to introduce yourself. Are there any other candidates that are on the line tonight? running for any office? All right, Sylvia, do you see any?
No, I don't see any.
All right, and I'm not seeing or hearing any, and so we're going to move on to any closing announcements or any actions that this group wants to inform us about that we need to be aware of. Any announcements tonight? All right, don't hear any either. Let's go ahead and close in with prayer. Sylvia, would you close us in prayer, please?
Yes, sir. Bow your heads, everyone, and let's pray for God's blessing. We thank you, Father God, for a prosperous meeting this evening. We thank you that we were able to come together, Father God, and to be attentive to thy word, to be better leaders throughout the land, Father God, better listeners, Father God, better providers, Father God, better towards each other, Father God. For we all need you desperately right here, right now, to show up and to show out. So we say thank you for Sheriff Gusman, who has been leading us for many, many years, Father God. We say thank you for leading him, teaching him, and guiding him. And as every other candidate is on this call, we pray for everyone, Father God, that they will be true to you first and themselves, then they could be true to everyone else. So we thank you for the encouraging spirits that's on this call and that continue to come to Justice and Beyond, for we are God's people. So I say thank you, Father God, for blessing us continually. And it's in Jesus' name that we have prayed. God bless
Amen.
everybody.
Amen.
Amen.
God bless everybody. Remember to tell everybody to get vaccinated so that we can meet again in person real soon. God bless y'all. Be safe. We'll see you back
God
next week.
bless.
Good night, everyone. Good
Bye.
night.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Love you, Miss Darlene. Allison.
Bye.